Todd Monken is the best candidate to be the Las Vegas Raiders head coach from the names that the Silver and Black have reached out to in terms of an interview. I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell all of y'all why I want Tom Brady, Mark Davis, to get in a room, sit down with Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken, and give him a potential job here with this team. Now, the reason why that I say he's the best candidate from the names that the Raiders reached out to is because, well, technically, Monken is yet to actually sit down in a room with Tom Brady and actually get into that interview. In fact, Todd Monken and Steve Spagnuolo are the two coaches that have yet to interview for the Silver and Black's job. Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, they all took those gigs. So when you look at the names right now that are out there, Vance Joseph, Robert Saleh, Monken, Pete Carroll, Ron Rivera, Steve Spagnuolo, my top guy from those names is Todd Monken. So coming up here is this. Let's just get into the latest around Todd, because I've been getting asked a lot, Mitch, have the Raiders interviewed him? No, they have not, so let's get into that. Who exactly is Monken, and some of the background, some of the coaching things that I think the Silver and Black would like to see, and then why Monken is the best choice for this Raiders team. Reminder, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. Here are my next two videos. I'm already going to tell y'all everything that I'm doing this week until the Raiders hire a head coach is going to be around finding the best candidate. The next show that I'm going to do, why Pete Carroll is the riskiest hire. And I think a lot of people think that he might be the safest. I tell you this, watch this video. It's going to be coming out in a little bit later on today. When I tell you why he's the riskiest, I think a lot of y'all will agree with it. And then tomorrow morning, I'm going to drop a video on why Deion Sanders, I believe, could be the safest hire. Not necessarily the best hire. The safest for Mark Davis. So here's the latest right now on Todd Monken. The Raiders requested to interview him on January 8th. That was a Thursday. That was the day after they interviewed Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn in person. And Monken has already interviewed for the Bears and Jaguars head coaching job. Obviously, Chicago hired Ben Johnson. Jacksonville still has Robert Saleh, and they are going to interview Patrick Graham today. Graham interviews today. Saleh interviews on Friday. It was also reported that those are not the only two candidates that this organization, in terms of the Jags, are going to look at. But he is not interviewed for the Raiders job. That's Monken, and I am really going to try to do my best to see if I can make it happen. If you want the Raiders to interview Todd Monken, smash that like button. I know for a fact Mark Davis watches this show, and I'm not saying that he's going to go out and try to interview Monken because he watches this, but here's what I know. I'm a loud individual, but when you put me together and the entire nation together, we got Josh McDaniels fired. Why can't we get an interview with Todd Monken? So coming up here on the show, who exactly is Monken? What are some of his coaching background? Because this also plays into knowing who our potential head coach could be. I don't know about y'all. As soon as I get a head coach candidate name pop up, the first thing that I do is I go, who is that? Why should I be interested? Give me a little bit more information on him. So right now he is 58 years old, but he is going to be 59 in February 5th, and that's a lot younger than some of the other candidates out there, like a guy like Pete Carroll. He's got 36 years of coaching experience, 10 in the league, and he's an offensive-minded coach, which you guys know that I like a lot. Sure, he's not a youthful coach, what I want, but he does have experience in the NFL and in college football. He's got a long, and I mean long coaching history. Hell, he was coaching as a grad assistant before I was even born. And as you go through, you can see some of the schools, some of the programs that he's worked with. Eastern Michigan, Max Crosby, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. He ended up getting his very first head coaching gig with Southern Miss from 2013 to 2015, albeit wasn't all that great, but that was a long time ago, and it was Southern Miss, right? Then he got his job for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, worked there for 3 seasons, went to Cleveland, didn't work out, and I think it was more of a Cleveland Browns issue, and then goes to Georgia, dominating right now with the Baltimore Ravens. So even though he was 13-25 at Southern Miss, 2-time college football national champion with Brock Bowers, and he was a finalist for Assistant Coach of the Year last season, when Lamar Jackson ended up winning the MVP. So I'm going to hit you guys with a question here, and this is going to be the number one question that I want everybody that, if you were to cut your arm open right now, and if it were to be Silver and Black, I'd want you to answer this. Scale it from 1 to 10. What's your confidence level in Todd Monken? My answer is going to be coming up right after this YouTube ad break. I'm going to go with a solid 8 out of 10, and I say that because Ben Johnson for me was a 9. And you can't even put Johnson there as a 10 out of 10 because until the Raiders get one right, there's no way it can be a 10 out of 10. But when you look at everything that Monken has done over the past few seasons, and the reason why I believe that he is the best candidate for this Raiders job, well, I actually have 5 reasons, and they're going to be coming up here in just a moment on the Raiders Report. Before I get into those 5 reasons, though, I got to give a shout out to Gametime, the best place to get tickets. I guarantee you this, Todd Monken, he probably gets his tickets at Gametime. Gametime is focused on bringing people together in 2025 and creating those lasting memories. I always say you might not remember the score, but you're always going to have those memories, which is why I love going to sporting events, and it's why I trust Gametime. Gametime has got a feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets. What I love about using the Gametime app is you're going to get that lowest price guaranteed at any ticket to any event, all-in pricing so you don't get slapped with crazy checkout fees, and flash deals so you get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime today. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's Gametime. One of the things that Chugs and I always say that we love about Gametime is when you go get tickets at a lot of other places, you're like, oh, wow, that's $50 ticket. And then you go to checkout and you're like, after taxes, fees, blah, blah, blah. Now we're looking at a $105 ticket, right? When you do the all-in pricing and you look at the Gametime picks, when you go to checkout, that's going to be the price you pay. Imagine going to the grocery store, getting a gallon of milk, and when you go to checkout, you thought it was going to be $3, and now all of a sudden it's $7. I'm taking that milk back. You don't got to do that with Gametime. Huge, huge shout out to them for sponsoring the Raiders Report. And I think if Todd Monken's the head coach, they're going to be packing the seats in Allegiant Stadium. So here is why I believe Todd Monken is the best candidate for the Las Vegas Raiders based on the names that they have already submitted a slip to interview. Let's first go to the biggest reason, quarterback success. And great success, right? And that's all we want. We want great success from a quarterback. We've had horrible quarterback play over the past 2 years, essentially since Derek Carr left. And Monken has been able to show you that he can get it done. He's got Lamar Jackson playing his best football, and it's true MVP type of level. And I think a lot of people can say, oh, but he's Lamar Jackson. Remember what Lamar Jackson looked like before and after Monken? It's very, very different. I got the numbers to be able to show it. Also, what about Stetson Bennett? Stetson Bennett looked like a reliable college football quarterback. And then, I get it, Monken goes to the NFL, Baltimore. Stetson tries to go to the NFL as well and has been an absolute disaster. Why I love this, though, is this. Because if you want to run an offense with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, he's had success doing it and had a lot of success doing it. You want a quarterback like Stetson Bennett to run an offense, maybe a little bit more methodical? Well, guess what? He's had some success. But 2021, 2022, that's before Todd Monken. Then, after Todd Monken, MVP type of levels. And when you can make a quarterback like Lamar Jackson even better, I think that speaks volumes of how good of a coach you are. Then you look at Georgia here with Bennett. Before he ended up taking over, Bennett struggled a little bit. But then in 2021 and 2022, don't get me wrong, Georgia was a dominant team on both sides of the football. They were the best team in the country those 2 seasons. But we also got to be able to look at there's nothing special about Bennett. There's nothing special about him. And he was still able to go out there, and he was still able to execute Monken's offense at a very, very high level. Then you look at in terms of just the NFL, Jimmy Garoppolo beat out Stetson Bennett this season. This season in 2024. I get it. Jimmy G's a veteran. Bennett is this and that. But we also saw what Jimmy G looked like last season. So my point is, I wonder if Todd Monken could even maybe make Jimmy Garoppolo good. I'm kind of kidding there. Let's go to the next reason here. The success that he has had at the NFL and in college football with the Baltimore Ravens and with Georgia. Don't get me wrong, quarterback success is important. but this is also a team sport, and we don't put any above the shield. And when you look at the success he had in Baltimore, it deserves to be looked at. This is from Ravens.com on Todd Monken. Was a 2023 finalist for AP NFL Assistant Coach of the Year after leading a Baltimore Ravens offense that ranked 4 in scoring with 28.4 points per game and 6 in total yards with 370.4, averaging an NFL high 156.5 rushing yards per game. Quarterback Lamar Jackson, who was voted AP NFL MVP for the second time also in 2019, produced the NFL's fourth best passer rating, 102.7, thrown for 3,678 yards, a career high, 24 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions. He also added 821 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns to become the only quarterback in NFL history with multiple seasons with 3,000 passing yards and 800 rushing yards. That's a milestone. And when you look at a lot of those things, Lamar Jacksons don't grow on trees. We can agree with that. We're probably not going to be able to find a Lamar Jackson in the draft. Don't get me wrong. I think Jalen Milroe is an interesting project. I think a guy like Justin Fields would be an interesting project. But those are 2 quarterbacks that the Raiders could get. And based off of Monken's success, those could be 2 guys that I would look at. Now let's look at what Ravens.com had to say about Todd Monken and his time at Georgia. Guy to Georgia's offense from 2020 to 2022, helping produce back-to-back national championship seasons. Led the Bulldogs offense to the number 5 national ranking in points per game with 39.8 and 8 in scrimmage yards per game with 472. Over the span of Georgia's most recent national title seasons, again, 2021 and 2022, the Bulldogs posted 198.1 rushing yards per contest during this stretch while adding 273.8 passing yards per game. Does anybody think that Stetson Bennett is a better quarterback than Carson Beck? I know I don't. Do I think that Georgia offense had a lot more talent on it? Yes, I definitely do. But the offense that Stetson Bennett ran at Georgia is the exact same offense that I believe Tom Brady is trying to incorporate here. Good offensive line, balanced running game, getting your wide receivers, tight ends involved, but it has a quarterback that can make smart decisions. That sounds like somebody like a Shedeur Sanders that the Raiders are looking at. It could also be somebody like a Sam Darnold. Maybe it could be somebody like a Kirk Cousins. And I'm naming all of these names because the next reason why I love Todd Monken is because we need off-season flexibility. This team needs off-season flexibility. Mitch, what the hell are you talking about? You know how many times I get asked if we hire this head coach and we hire this OC, which quarterback we should go with? I think if you hire Todd Monken, you can go in almost any direction you want, and it makes it more confusing for all your other opponents to try to scheme and figure out what you're trying to do. So Monken has shown that he can win with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson and Stetson Bennett. Do we agree that both of those guys are totally different? And they're both different offenses. Like, when you got a run-first offense and a quarterback like Lamar, you could go a bunch of different ways. We could go out and we could get a Jalen Milroe. We could draft a Ashton Genty. You bulk up that offensive line. Or do you decide to go with more of a pocket passer and a Shedeur Sanders, and then you try to go out and add still a really good running back and just build all around? Also, that flexibility. You got $92.5 million in salary cap and 12 total draft picks. For those of you that don't know, we're projected to get 2 extra 6th-round picks when you look at the comp model, but the second most money in salary cap. That gives you flexibility in free agency. It gives you flexibility in re-signing players. It gives you flexibility in the NFL draft. There is not another coach that gives you all the flexibility with proven track record that Todd Monken has. Coming up, Monken has got a Raiders connection that I think everybody needs to see. And the way that Tom Brady has done this whole thing, he's calling a lot of the shots. And I would imagine that there's got to be a connection that I want all of y'all to see that could really put a bow on bringing Monken to the silver and black. Now, before I tell you what that is, I do also have a list of the please interview list. Now, I know Liam Cohen said he's going to go back to Tampa Bay, but reminder, this is a video based on who I believe is the best candidate for the Raiders in terms of names that they have not tried to interview. Every name that you see up here, I think is a respected coach that I could make an entire video around why they deserve an interview for the Raiders. The Bears interviewed basically 20 people. The people the Raiders are looking at, I don't think are in risk of going to the Saints, going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if I'm the Raiders, I don't want to just jump in bed like we did last season. You lost out on Cliff Kingsbury. You go into a bad hire with Luke Getsy. Let's take it slow. Let's do the interview process right, and let's make sure we get the best candidate. Let's go to the reason, though, of why I think that he's the best candidate, again, is Todd Monken. John Spytek relationship. We talk about stability. We talk about a lot of things moving around. We saw a lot of things moving around in terms of what the Raiders are trying to do, right? And there was a lot of confusion, I think, because some of the beat reporters reported it wrong, but Max Crosby wants stability. I want stability. I want continuity. I want a head coach and a GM and a guy like Tom Brady to all think the same. It's what I want. And I think we all want that. So John Spytek was with Todd Monken from 2016 to 2018. And in those 3 seasons, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers showed some growth. Yeah, unfortunately, Monken ended up going to Cleveland, which he probably regrets because the Browns are going to brown. But I also don't blame Monken for wanting to take his talents to a city that, let's face it, they needed all the help they could get. And if you're that confident in yourself, you're like, I can fix the Cleveland Browns. That's the type of confidence that I need with the Las Vegas Raiders. But in those 3 years where Spytek and Monken were together, they produced a lot of good stuff in Tampa Bay just 2 years after them drafting Jameis Winston. I get it early, but Winston was not that guy. From 2016 to 2018, Monken led a Buccaneers offense that ranked 3rd in first downs per game, 22.5, 2nd in passing yards per game, 279.5, and 1st in third down conversion percentage at 44.4%. Mike Evans flourished under Monken's offense in 2018, recording a career high and franchise record 1,524 receiving yards en route to a Pro Bowl selection. So if you're looking for a big-time receiver, and like here's the thing, with that amount of money, the Raiders could potentially go out and try to find another guy in free agency. If I'm T. Higgins and I look at what Monken was able to do with Mike Evans, I think T. Higgins is kind of like a Mike Evans. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but it's the off-season flexibility that Monken gives you, where if you're like, hey, I want to go F around and go sign Trey Smith, steal him from the Chiefs, let's do it. In fact, I think it's what I would want the Raiders to do. But you could also go out and spend big, maybe on a wide receiver like a T. Higgins in free agency. And here's the final reason. Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers-Johnson, who both were voted to AP All-First Team, Rookie Team. And I commented this yesterday, and I said it back on Tuesday when I was live. The top 2 building blocks that the Raiders have going forward, and this next head coach to me, I want some longevity, which is why I like Monken, but you got 2 building blocks on the offensive side of the football. They are Brock Bowers at tight end, and they are Jackson Powers-Johnson at center. Bowers dominated at Georgia with Monken, so there's already a relationship there. And JPJ is a tough mother effer. He is the perfect lineman for the scheme that Monken would want to run. You're telling me JPJ wouldn't fit on that Georgia offensive line? You're telling me JPJ wouldn't be a perfect offensive lineman on that Baltimore Ravens team? If you want a physical offense that has had success in the NFL, that has had success in college, that has had success with Lamar Jackson, Stetson Bennett, 2 totally different quarterbacks, that has had success at Georgia with the Baltimore Ravens, off-season flexibility where you can spend almost $100 million in salary cap, 12 total draft picks, a relationship already with John Spytek. Todd Monken is the best head coach candidate for the Las Vegas Raiders for all of those reasons. Tom Brady, John Spytek, Todd Monken. That's commitment to excellence, and that's what I want to get back to. I appreciate all y'all for tuning in and watching this video. If you enjoyed it, you can share and tag me. It's supposed to say at Mitchell Renz 365. Next video that I'm going to end up doing, as soon as I get done with this, the video that I'm going to start working on is why Pete Carroll is the riskiest hire. And I know when I say that, people are probably shocked to hear me say that, but there's one big reason. And I think that you'll agree with me once you hear it. And then on deck, maybe it's technically in the hole if we're talking baseball terms, I'm going to tell you why Deion Sanders is the safest hire. If you want to see this video and you want to see that video, make sure you subscribe to the Raiders Report because I'm about to cook them up right now.